Welcome to day 193 of the 300 movie challenge. Today we watched the highest grossing film of June 2010, which was Toy Story 3. I am not crying
No.
for once. Surprise! Because I was sobbing at the last two Pixar movies with Up and then Ratatouille. Surprisingly, I'm not in tears right now.
I have a weird opinion on this movie, so I don't want to go first.
I feel like I also have a kind of weird opinion. But I guess I've seen parts of this movie, of which some of the parts I saw on mute, because the funny story with this movie is that when we were flying to Atlanta, my brother was watching the movie on his TV screen. So whenever I would glance up, I would see parts of the movie, but of course I couldn't hear anything of it.
Aww.
So, the whole beginning and stuff I had seen previously, and then everybody knows the end. So the middle was the part that I didn't really know too much about.
And then what is your story?
I have not seen this movie previously. I knew the ending, and I might have seen the ending scene, but that was it. So I haven't, it's kind of like that whole thing of when I was a kid, I only saw Toy Story 1, and I never saw any of the sequels, so this is my first viewing of the threequel today.
Well, since you have the least experience, you should go first.
The least experience.
Well, because I saw this all the way through when it came out
Right.
in theaters, so I've seen it
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I feel like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to get started talking about this movie, I feel like, because, it depends on what angle you want to go at. Do you want to go at the plot? Do you want to attack, not attack, but do you want to, look at how the emotional aspect is? Do you want to, look at it from the, oh, there's actually a lot of character development aspect? And, if I was to pick something to start with, I guess I'll go with something that maybe might not be quite touched upon, since the sentimental aspect will probably be the more obvious thing. But I liked how we saw the characters, because you know how they were before. Woody was kind of not that, he's not that likable in the first one, but in this movie I found myself rooting for him the most, and just seeing all of the characters, how their dynamic changes and how they develop as a group was pretty interesting to see. And Barbie and Ken. Barbie is the MVP of this movie.
Barbie was wonderful.
Great.
Yeah, I honestly didn't remember too much from when I saw it, but I did remember liking Barbie and Ken, and I'm like, yep, they are the best part of this movie.
It makes me want to go back home to my childhood home and find all my Barbies and be I appreciate you a lot more now. So,
I guess for me, I also don't know quite where to start.
Well, okay.
Okay, Valen, why don't you start?
Well,
Yeah, why don't you go first, actually?
We're all in agreement that overall it's a good movie, right?
Yes.
It's just, okay. Something about this movie bothers me. And this is not a big bother, okay? Again, I overall like the movie. But I don't really know what it is, but there's something about it where it feels like the emotional moments that they're going for, and there are several of them, they don't quite feel earned to me. and I don't know why, and I don't know like what they should have done differently.
I know I've heard the main criticism is the fact that the whole plot with Lotso is kind of recycled from I don't remember what his name was.
Oh, you mean the guy from Toy Story 2?
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
That's
it
the
is.
main thing I've heard. Yeah, that he's kind of the same villain, but maybe like a little bit more wacko.
Yeah, what was?
Because now he has henchmen.
Backstory a little bit too.
Yeah.
but
The previous guy wasn't played with at all, but this guy was like abandoned and stuff. But it's basically kind of the same thing.
yeah,
And I guess the other thing too with it is that while Lotso is there and everything, he's not actually the main conflict.
No.
Because the main conflict is actually like the toys reconciling with the fact that Andy's growing up and everything, and whether or not they want to go up into the attic and everything too, and stuff.
I guess maybe that's kind of what it is. It's like this movie didn't need a villain.
Yeah. Because I feel like the whole thing, like, I understand where they were going, like, showing the daycare and everything, because it is true that when you go to a daycare, no one really cares about the toys when you go and stuff. But, like, it's kind of like the main conflict wasn't actually that, so then when you see him like towards the end of the movie and with the other characters and everything, it doesn't feel like he should be there either.
Right, yeah.
And everything, like it's like, okay, we don't need you here, especially since at the end you see them like all holding hands and everything, and I feel like that would have been better if you didn't see the fact that Lotso like abandoned them and everything. I don't know if that makes sense.
no, it kind of. I mean, like, okay, the prospector guy in Toy Story 2 didn't really have that big of a role either. But like, I felt like the story was focused better on like Woody's character struggle, whereas here it's just kind of like, oh, the toys have to worry about dealing with Andy growing up, and then now we got to do the Lotso plot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It shifts it a bit too much, and yeah, you could argue Lotso has more quote-unquote character to him, but it's not that much more, and again, it's very, very similar to the Prospector, so it's just, yeah. Again, he's not bad, it's just, it feels like it's just a little forced.
It's a little bit of, like, extraneous.
Yeah.
You probably don't need him. Like, if you take him out and just go with the existential plot of it, with them being like, what should we do now that Andy's growing up and stuff, because like I felt like the whole thing with like that getting them to the daycare and then having Lotso be there, it kind of, I guess it lessened the impact of like
you didn't get to see much of Andy also like going through the fact that he's leaving the toys behind and everything too. And
yeah.
stuff. And them going through the whole breakup and everything too is kind of a repeat of the first movie also.
Yeah.
Where everyone kind of turned against Woody and stuff.
Yeah,
so
everyone turned against Woody.
No, so here that also bothered me because like the whole instigation of that is that they like don't believe him that they were going to be in the attic, but it's like, why would he lie about that?
Yeah.
Like, why are you not believing him? It just seems really weird that that's something you're not going to believe. So,
especially since he's not like first movie Woody, who might maybe do something like that.
yeah, he's
maybe.
proven himself that he wants to help them and he wants them. It just kind of seems weirdly repetitive from the previous movies when you didn't really have any reason to. And going back to the Lotso thing, like you can still, because they see someone like, well, if you take him out, then like how does the whole plot with the daycare even work? And I'm like, well, no, you could have it so that like the daycare, the toys that are there are kind of, in a sense, have like Stockholm syndrome with the idea of like, it is our duty to play with these children. You know what I mean? It can kind of go into that route where so you could still have this kind of escape and stuff like that without this figurehead of an antagonist that doesn't really work that well. And because then again, instead it would feel more like the toys are fighting against is kind of a weird word to use, but against like the system, in a sense of like this is the system being like, this is what toys are supposed to do. They're they're with a person, but that person grows old, so they're donated, and you have to play with the kids. Like, that's, your role in the society. And they're like, but we don't want to do that. You know what I mean? So you can still...
That's an interesting comparison,
Yeah,
actually.
so, like, you could do that without, and that's a legitimate thing. And it links in better with the whole Andy thing, instead of just, here's a villain, right? So... Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, I feel kind of bad for, like, kind of criticizing this, because, again, overall, I still like it. It's just...
same, yeah.
And going also with the emotional stuff, like, it feels to me like whoever was making this movie was like, they had like a checklist of things where they're like, okay, we have to do this, 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 and this because that's what people will find emotional. And so then they kind of built the stuff around it, and like it feels like a little forced, a little bit. Like, again, the whole scene with like the fire in the dump, it's like, I don't know, like, I feel like that was like, oh, we're making this to make you, like, sad. You know what I mean? It wasn't sad, it was, we're making you sad. You see the difference, kind of?
Yeah.
Where I'm coming at this?
Yeah, I can kind of see what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, so there's stuff like that, and then...
But I
I don't
did
know.
like how they did that scene where they actually made all the characters go silent and stuff too.
I don't know. Again, I can't say I dislike this scene, but again, there's like that thing in the back of my head that's like bothering me throughout a lot of this movie. If anything, I was actually telling this to my mom because she actually hadn't seen it, and she like thought that like they all like got burned, and like that was the end. And I was like,
Bummer ending.
no, and I was like, actually, if they did that, like, I'd give them so much credit, because that would have been such a risk. Just like they all die.
Oh my god.
But
This is not Life is Beautiful, okay?
that said, I kind of also wish we got to see more of... I know in the previous movies you don't see Andy, but I feel like in this movie seeing like his emotions and what he has to go through would have also been good too. Like if they stayed in the house and stuff and everything.
It would have been interesting to actually see Andy this time around, because it's like even taking Toy Story 2, you get the perspective of Jessie and like how she was abandoned by her original owner.
Yeah.
But you don't know the owner's story per se.
That too, I feel like ultimately the conflict in this movie is actually with Andy, where he wants to keep the toys and everything, and he's going through that back and forth. And I feel like if we saw more of Andy in this movie, then that final scene where he leaves like all the toys with Bonnie also would have been more impactful too.
Yeah.
That said, the incinerator scene actually reminded me of another movie, which was, I highly doubt either of you have seen this movie, but have either of you seen Brave Little Toaster?
No, but
No.
I know about it.
Okay. In the near end of that movie, it kind of goes along with the same thing about, like, there's someone who, like... There are these appliances, they're not toys, but they're these appliances that kind of, the family moves away and they go and try to find, like, the boy and everything. It sounds very strange, but just go with me with this. So, at the end of the movie, they end up, I forget how, but they somehow end up, like, in the dump and stuff, and they're also getting incinerated, like, getting sent to the incinerator and stuff. But the guy actually comes running in to go and rescue them and everything.
Oh.
And I felt when I saw that was very impactful for me as like a little kid when I was watching it. But obviously the logistics for Andy being able to get into the garbage dump is probably not very high.
Well, Sid could do it.
Sid is a garbage man.
Actually, yeah, he would just watch Andy's toys burn. Because he's
Considering the emotional trauma.
I mean, actually, that would be really interesting though. About like he's like happens to look at the garbage and he sees Woody and like does he have like PTSD of like what happened? Like,
I got attacked by my toys because of that.
I know, right?
Frickin' Woody. Tom Hanks, what have you done in this movie?
Yeah, so I think I see this. I don't know. I just see this as a good movie, but one that feels a little bit forced and a little bit like the
Disjointed?
well that, and also it felt like it felt like some executive was like, make this movie instead of here's the thing that a bunch of us came together as a really great idea for a movie. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it felt more like corporate
Yeah.
and like, we need to make this to make money, kind of. And again, it's still a good movie, but I don't know, it's missing something. And actually, that actually leads me to something else, and that they're making a Toy Story 4.
Why?
Exactly! Why?
Yeah.
Like, here's the thing. You could say, oh, well, they're at a new home with some new toys, they could have new adventures. And it's like, okay.
No!
Well, here's the thing. I agree with that in concept, but that it's clear that the saga of the characters from the first movie is over.
Yeah.
So what they should do, if they want to continue these characters and want to add new characters and do their own thing, make a TV show.
Yeah.
That doesn't that make sense that they should make a show with, the new toys in this new house and have their own kind of thing, Like,
It could be episodic.
yeah, that works really well with this kind of idea, but having it be a movie and saying like, see, this is just as important as the other three in terms of the story, like that just feels wrong to me.
I also, what would they do? Unless it's like, the only thing that I can imagine they could do if they wanted to continue is if Andy comes back and he's actually like married and has his own kid and everything, but
That feels like, again, it's something like someone who that feels corporate in a sense, where it's like, oh, see, that's what you would want to see, and it's like, well, but, it's just, yeah, I don't. Again, is Toy Story 4 when it comes out, it'll probably still be a pretty good movie, but like, I kind of don't want to see it just in principle of like what it's doing. I don't know. It's this stuff bothers me.
I just don't like the idea of like when people end series and then they randomly continue it, because I know that's something that happens a lot with like books nowadays, because I think I've mentioned that I watch like book reviewers and stuff, and then it's like, oh, suddenly new book, and it's just like, but you finished that series, didn't you?
Yeah, I'd much
yeah,
rather.
and then there's also things like with manga and anime, like
Naruto.
Pokemon.
oh, his son Boruto.
What is even going on in that series?
You really want to find out?
I stopped after Itachi died. That's when it ended for me.
I mean, you got farther than I did, but
Yeah, that's true. But anyway, we're not talking about Naruto.
Yeah, like, I give a lot of credit for people who are like, okay, I'm gonna tell a story, blop, 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 and it ends. Like,
yeah.
For example,
People do that.
yeah, for example, Gravity Falls. It, very popular show, they made it, and they're like, okay, we have ideas for 2 seasons, and then we're done. And that was it.
Fullmetal Alchemist.
Yeah, there's that, and like,
And then you have something like SpongeBob that's been going on since forever.
yeah, it's
and
like SpongeBob.
the people have actually tried to, like, put an end to the series, but the executives are like, nope.
Yeah,
Gotta keep going.
because
Oh
wasn't
my god, then Fairly Odd Parents, like, you don't need the baby, you don't need the, like...
Fairly Odd Parents did end.
It did?
yeah, it
Yeah.
did, like, eventually, but it died a slow, painful death, basically.
Yeah.
Oh my god. That show used to be good, but then the baby ruined it.
I think.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Well, because for SpongeBob, wasn't that original like movie supposed to be the end?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, the original movie was supposed to be the end.
And now they're on like they're about to make like movie 3 or something, and it's been going on for so
season
long.
25 or
Yeah.
something.
Well, then like The Simpsons. There's very few things that can go on for a long period of time. Pretty much the only one I can think of that like is still overall pretty solid is South Park, but that's because they base heavily on current events.
Yeah.
So that's
that makes sense.
yeah, that's something. And again, I haven't seen South Park, so I can't really comment. I've just heard from that's kind of how it goes. But yeah, there's very few things that I've like and the thing is also, even if you have like an end game in mind, especially if it takes forever to get there, then you have a risk of losing viewers and also getting canceled before it's over, right?
Yeah.
So, thank you, Clone Wars, but anyway. Clone Wars actually had an end planned. The problem was their end planned was season 8, and they got canned after season 6. So, but whatever.
Are they coming back?
Kind of, for like a half season. It's hard to explain.
Just let them finish the series, guys.
Yeah, no, well, I think that's the idea, is because they've literally had like the ending of the show like planned out in terms of like the story and what's going to happen, and they've actually referenced it in other material.
It's very dense, I guess.
Yeah, so I think they're, as this kind of last thing is basically, okay, we're gonna do the actual ending, and then people will kind of stop harassing us so much about it. So like, okay, fine, I can at least accept that, but
It would have been nice to get season 7.
Yeah, I mean, well, the other problem is that like since they got it was canceled the first time, a lot of like the original plot lines for the show in season like 7 and they were made into like books and comics and stuff.
Oh, I see.
So yeah, the only like real like important event thing that they've alluded to that's never been explicitly shown is that finale event. So, but again, it has been alluded to in other things as well, so we kind of already know what's going to happen, but it's still nice to see it, right? And,
Yeah.
So anyway, but...
Toy Story.
Yeah, the point I'm just making is that if they had at least for this feels like a definitive ending point.
Yeah, because it is.
Yeah, so, well, again, could you do more from where they are? Yes, you can. And if they did something like a TV show that's clearly like a smaller kind of thing and not, it's not saying, look, we're equivalent to what came before, like, then that's fine, right? But it just feels like slapping on a 4 onto another story just feels scummy from a capitalist perspective, I guess.
I don't know why they don't just make more TV shows, because like they make all these trashy TV shows with like child stars who end up like becoming crack addicts all the time. So why don't you just make a normal TV show about the animated series instead?
Easy answer. The child shows are way cheaper to make.
Yeah.
You get to
pay animators and stuff.
Yeah, and you get to
you have to rely on them if they can kind of sing or kind of act
and kind of look good.
Later.
But child actors are, because the thing is that if they make a TV show, they're gonna have to find someone. They're either gonna have Tom Hanks, like have to pay Tom Hanks, or they have to find someone who sounds like Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I know. Well, there is that Big Hero 6 show, but I haven't watched it. I don't know anything about it. I keep meaning to check it out, but I never get around to it.
Heard it's good.
I don't know like at all. So.
I mean, I'm sure it is.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not terrible, but again, like I've said a couple times that I think somebody should have shows. Like I've said there should be a show for The Incredibles. This would be a good thing for a show. I feel like there was something else that I mentioned that would work as a show.
I don't remember
there was something.
There was something else. I don't remember what it was now. Now, poo. Okay, whatever. Yeah.
They used to do that actually. Like Lion King, they used to have a show for like Timon and Pumbaa.
Oh yeah. No, there was a couple of those in like the 90s that they were trying to go for.
Aladdin.
Yeah.
Aladdin.
What was the last one they did? Was it like
Little
the Emperor's
Mermaid?
Groove?
Oh yeah, Emperor's New Groove was one. I know Little Mermaid had one.
Well, I know there were several that were like.
Oh, Hercules.
Yeah, I know there were several that like were commissioned, but then like as the beginning episodes came out, they basically like scrapped it and then pushed those episodes out as like a direct-to-DVD sequel.
Oh yeah.
There's one for Beauty and the Beast. There's one for Atlantis. I feel like there's another one too.
Oh, wait, is it Tarzan or?
Oh yeah, no, Tarzan, and then I think there was a Cinderella. I think Cinderella 2 was the idea.
Oh yeah.
Yes, Tarzan 2, Cinderella 2, Atlantis. I forgot what the subtitle was. It wasn't just 2, and then it was it was Belle's Magical World. That was the Beauty and the Beast one, which is like it's fucking awful. Like you think Mulan 2 is bad? No, this is worse. It's so bad. So, like, literally, it's just the dumbest shit that, like, is like, well, no wonder they fucking scrapped it. It's so trash. But, yeah, so that's just dumb. So, maybe they're just afraid to do it because a lot of those kind of failed. But, I mean, if you actually put actual fucking effort into it, it probably would be at least okay. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and whatever. I guess we think like we talked about this enough. I think you get our general idea of how we think about this.
Overall, I think that this is a good movie, but I think I still like Toy Story 1 and 2 better.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
agree with that. If you haven't seen it, it's not bad to see, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just don't.
It's definitely a good movie to watch as like an end of an arc.
yeah,
Yeah.
you don't feel like it ruined the characters or anything like that. So
No.
yeah,
I hope that Toy Story 4 doesn't do that.
yeah,
though,
I
because
am a
that's
little
what
worried about
happened.
that. Well, I guess we'll find out. I think it's coming out I think it's mid 2019 actually.
Just let the toys be happy with Bonnie, okay? Okay.
Well, we'll find out. But
Okay.
until then, we get what's the next thing? Oh, right, that's the next one that we're watching.
Oh yeah.
So that's another one that I actually saw a long time ago that I want to see again. So okay, I guess we'll see that next time.
Yeah.
Oh, that movie. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeehaw.
Oh my god.
Okay, bye.